key of this interview, and that is the name fluoride blurring the whole debate. When we're not talking about fluoride, and as my guest was saying during the break to me, he said, look, it's not true. There hasn't been a lot of studies of what's actually being put in the water. There's been studies of sodium fluoride alone. He's actually absolutely right. The studies show that sodium fluoride alone, and he could differ, but the studies show increases in bone cancers in males, calcification of glands. But then he's going to come back and say, well, those are studies calling it fluoride, but it's really this other chemical compound that's a mixture of fluoride and other things. So, really one of the world experts on this with the top chemist he's been working with. Please continue, sir. Let's get right into it.
Okay, well, look, let me start explaining things very simply. This silicon fluoride, which breaks down, first of all, it has the effect, which is very big, of increasing the amount of lead that a child will absorb if he's living in an old house with lead paint or any place in the environment where there's lead. So we did some studies in places where there was evidence of children's blood level by the community where they lived. 3 big samples, one in Massachusetts by county, one in New York State by county, and then the National Health and Nutrition Evaluation Survey is a 3rd study. And 3 different big, huge samples, one of 400,000 kids, and you just do statistical analysis. Okay, what's the average level or percent of kids, for instance, who have more than what was the conventional level of danger, which is 10 micrograms per deciliter? That is, how many kids have high blood lead, or what's the average blood lead? And what we found is that where there's silicon fluoride in the water, taking everything into consideration, like economics and race and everything else, where there's silicon fluoride in the water, there's more lead in the kids. And it's partly because silicon is a complicated atom that combines with a lot of other things, and the chemistry of that's not my business. What my business is the effects of it. And all the statistics involve taking lots of things into consideration. And what we then found was that, where there's pollution with lead, if there's also silicon fluorides in the water compared to where there's pollution with lead and no silicon fluoride, where there's lead and silicon fluoride, that adds another, roughly speaking, another 100 or 150 violent crimes for every 100,000 people drinking the water.
Amazing. Now, interviewing chemists and doctors on this subject, they describe fluoride and the different variants of it. That's why Prozac's made out of it and some of the other things. It's amazing because it's electrically basically charged, and it just binds to everything. It goes through everything. It's really an active, volatile thing, to put that in dumbed-down layman's terms. Is that accurate?
My concern is not with the fluoride. It's with this other chemical, and the point is that this other chemical, silicon fluorides, when you put them in water, the German study by Westendorf in 1975 was the only major study in the literature, and it showed it had big effects on brain chemistry.
Okay, so separately, we keep calling it fluoride, but there's a different family of different compounds. What are they putting in the water in the cities?
Over 90% of water fluoridation uses one of these 2 silicon fluorides, either closely acid, which is a liquid, or sodium silicon fluoride, which is a very closely resembles it, but it's solid and it's in pebbles, in little pebbles. But these silicon fluorides are totally different from sodium fluoride, and they have these harmful effects on children or adults, and they have never been tested. The key thing, first of all, that they've never been tested. Don't take that. That's not my word. The National Toxicology Program in 2002 nominated these 2 chemicals for study on the grounds their toxicology was not known. That is, the study of how they harm the brain or the body was not known.
But it is known that they harm. Stay there. Stay there. A quick break. We'll be right back, Professor.
Cameras are everywhere, above stoplights, on
that they've never been tested. Don't take that. That's not my word. The National Toxicology Program in 2002 nominated these two chemicals for study on the grounds their toxicology was not known. That is, the study of how they harm the brain or the body was not known.
But it is known that they harm. Stay there. Stay there. A quick break. We'll be right back, Professor. This is really important information, ladies and gentlemen. I've got some more vital information. It'll be a surprise at the bottom of the hour after our guest leaves us. We got to move quick, Professor, because we've only got about 21 minutes left with you. I think for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers and Infowars.com listeners, though, I'm going to skip this next break coming up because this is so important. And I've also got one of your studies here, the silicofluorides in higher blood lead, a national problem that particularly harms blacks. This is online as well. So before you leave, I want people to be able to go and read for themselves the different studies that you and your colleagues have done. Okay, continuing. Now we kind of skipped ahead here. When did they decide to put these two different chemical compounds that they use publicly? The cover story is it's fluoride, but it's even more than that. And the studies that it's binding other heavy metals, bringing things in. The reports I've got, too, is that they also took, other compounds of toxic waste and called it fluoride and put that directly into the water. So, hit all the key points for us, please, sir. I understand it's academic and there's different facets to each little sub-area, but give us an overview.
I'll have to commit that I don't know some of the things that you have mentioned at all. Maybe it's just the professors that got tunnel vision, but all I focused on is that once we started to get rid of this waste from separating the uranium from the rock, and decided to just throw that in the water supply, because it was assumed that it would all come apart. And it was never tested, and as I said, the National Toxicology Program in 2002 formally nominated a chemical to be studied because it's how toxic it wasn't really understood, how it worked.
Now, what, 2 years ago?
Since the 40s.
Well,
it started in the 40s, putting it in the water.
Well, I was going to say, they're just now looking at studying it thanks to your work and others. But, 2 years ago, the American Dental Association said children shouldn't be brushing their teeth with fluoride until they're, 6 or 7?
Well, one of the things that has been a problem is that the American Dental Association and the AMA have repeatedly spoken about fluoridation as good. And they have not dealt with the fact that there were no studies of the safety of these silicofluorides. All the studies were on the safety of sodium fluoride.
Now let's be clear.
So it's as if I tell you, well, it's a good thing to have let's say a calcium pill in the morning, so here's another pill and it turns out to have arsenic in it. Well, because one thing is good doesn't mean another thing is good.
Exactly. They say milk is good, but it isn't milk. It's battery acid that kids are drinking. And so let's say sodium fluoride is good for your teeth and good for you, which there are studies on and it shows they're not. But regardless, let's just say it's good. What you're saying is, what we're hearing as, quote, fluoridation isn't even that at all, and the studies are clear it's bad, they just don't know why, and now that's being looked at.
Yeah, and let me give some concrete numbers. When you have lead in the water, or in the environment, pollution in the environment, there's a higher lead in the kids. But when you have the silicofluorides, it goes up. So that just the lead alone, that increases the lead in kids' blood, okay? It's about, the measure of is in micrograms per deciliter. It's about one of those measures is increased by lead alone.
The silicofluorides boost these other poisons.
That's right. It goes up in whites by another microgram per deciliter, from about 2.3 to 3.5. In blacks, it goes up about 2.5, from 5.5 to 8. That is, it way only increases the vulnerability of blacks.
Oh, it just so happens to hurt blacks. I'm sure that hurts the feelings of the eugenicists that happen to run our entire government.
Well, let me not get into eugenicists and just get into science, because the main thing is that the effects of lead include learning disabilities, substance abuse, and violent behavior.
Oh.
Because lead destroys the ability of the brain chemicals that inhibit your behavior. It just slows down your impulsiveness. The brain chemicals aren't working right if you've got a lot of lead in your system. I mean, if you have a lot of it, it'll kill you.
But mad as a hatter.
When I was on the Get the Lead Out of Vermont task force, the government task force in Vermont,